Hello everybody, this is GeneralJannis, and today I'm doing a detachment review of the Virulent Vectorium, so popular demand to see how the detachments are doing, what combos and math can we do, and what list we can use for the various detachments. So with no further ado, let's get started. So today, the 25th of May, I've already covered some detachments, the Deathlord Chosen and the Taliban Summoners. So the Deathlord Chosen actually is the one that really intrigued me in the beginning. But in this video, I'm looking at the Virulent Vectorium. We look at the Detachment Rule, the Enhancements, Stratagems, some combos, ideas and combinations and plays and so on. Some math to back some of the things up. For example, how do the enhancements improve various leaders and something like that. Looking at some example lists and then the summary and final thoughts. Before I start, a shout out and special thanks to all my YouTube members, GeneralJannis supporters, and for everybody commenting and liking and subscribing to the channel. So looking at the detachment rule of the Virulent Vectorium, and the Virulent Vectorium basically is our previous index detachment, a bit changed. So the detachment rule is the world blight, and this gives us the sticky objectives that we know from the index. This means that if we control the objective marker, an objective marker with a death card unit has to be in range of that objective marker. At the end of our command phase, then it will stay in our control until an enemy in a subsequent phase will have more objective control on the objective than we have. And also the objective gains Nurgle's gift, so it can spread the contagion and the plague. So this is always a helpful rule to have. This will free up some units in the game. Potentially you can move out to screen better or do some action or shoot, and then you don't have to stay on the objective, and maybe you can screen in front of the objective or something like this, and the enemy might have more difficulties trying to take it from you. So always a useful rule, and yeah, something that we know from our index rules. Now looking on to the enhancements, we have very many, let's say, known names from previous editions. Also, we start off with a Revolting Regeneration for 20 points. They're a bit expensive, but they are quite good enhancements. This gives 5+ Feel No Pain to the bearer, and this is a strong durability buff. I think it's better matched for a Daemon Prince. The Daemon Prince cannot join a unit, so 5+ Feel No Pain will be improving his durability significantly, as we will see. Maybe a Lord of Violence that leads Blight Lords to be living longer, but the characters that can be in units, they are more protected from their bodyguards, at least if the enemy doesn't have a lot of precision weapons. The Arch Contaminator is 25 points, and a unit within range of an objective we control can reroll the whole wound roll. This is nice, but you must be on your own objective for it to work. And Lord of Violence, for example, already rerolls the wound roll for ranged attacks. The Arch Contaminator will also help melee and shooting attacks. For example, if you have Lord of Contagion and some Death Shroud, they would probably be deep striking and charging something. Maybe they will not be able to utilize this rule a lot. Maybe I was thinking of a Lord of Poxes that can lead some shooty Plague Marines. If you have the Plague Marines maybe standing on an objective with a lot of Poxes, they cannot be targeted outside of 18 inches, and you can maybe reroll the wound roll here. That could be quite interesting. The Demon Weapon of Nurgle gives the bearer's melee weapon critical hit on 5s. This is nice. And this is a cheap, let's say cheap, it's only 10 points, so it's good to get more lethal hits. Our weapons typically have lethal hits. For example, I think this is a good match for the Lord of Contagion, because when he's a leader, he gives sustained hits and he has lethal hits. So critical hitting on 5+ for the Lord of Contagion is quite strong. It could be also for Daemon Prince, Lord of Violence, or other characters also would of course benefit from the 5+. And then finally the Furnace of Plagues. This is a more expensive, 25 points here. Melee weapons get +1 strength, +1 attack, and devastating wounds, which can be really good versus some armies. And I think this is the best match for Daemon Prince or Lord of Contagion again. for melee, and the Lord of Pox is already has devastating wounds, so he wouldn't benefit as much from the Furnace of Plagues. But all in all, some good enhancements for the Virulent Vectorium. And moving on to the stratagems, here we have some really strong ones. And the first one, which is really strong, is the Creeping Blight for only 1 command point. It targets Death Guard infantry. 1 different infantry unit in the shooting phase will get reroll all to hit and all to wound versus an afflicted target. And this is a very strong damage increase for a big Plague Marine squad with leaders. Let's say, especially if you have Malignant Plaguecaster, you have Biologous Putrefier, and then when you shoot, rerolling everything can do a lot. It could also be for Blightlord Terminators, a big squad of Blightlord Terminators. That's quite strong. If you had a lot of violence, of course, you would already be rerolling the wound roll. So this is very strong for our infantry. And then continuing to the Disgusting Resilience, it's 2 command points to use the Disgusting Resilience. And this can be used both in the opponent's shooting phase or fight phase when a Death Guard unit is selected as a target, and then you get -1 to the incoming damage for the rest of the phase for this unit. So this is especially good if the enemy has a lot of damage 2 weapons, or let's say if they have damage 3 weapons versus our Terminators. And this could be the way to make a Plague Marine squad survive longer. When, for example, if you have the Plague Marines protected in a Rhino, they come out with a Ferric Blight, they do a lot of damage, then the enemy tries to kill them, but with Disgusting Resilience, they could be surviving quite longer. So this is a bit expensive to use, and because you could use it on shoot and fight phase, it would be good to have a lot of command points. A Daemon Prince could be interesting, because if you have him nearby, it could reduce the cost to only 1 command point. And then this could be really strong, these 2 at least. The overwhelming generosity, 1 command point, requires a Death Guard character to spot an enemy, let's say, and all Death Guard units that are shooting at this target can reroll the number of shots they have. So there is quite a few units that have D6 or something shots, like the Furtive Bloatron with the launcher, the Plague Scroller mortar, the spewers and spitters, etc., all D6 type of weapons. So you can get rerolls. If you reroll, let's say, the 1s and the 2s, you will be getting 17% more shots. And so it's a bit situational, of course, how many of those weapons do you have in order to use this, but it will be also useful for vehicles and other units like this. The Lich Spore Eruption for 1 command point in our own command phase. So the Death Guard model that we roll it for has to be within 3 inches of an enemy, and you can roll a d6 for each lost wound this model has. On a 5+, you are regaining a wound and the enemy is suffering mortal wounds to a maximum of 6. And this is quite strong. If you would have a model with a lot of wounds that has lost a lot of wounds, for example, it could be a damaged Daemon Prince, or even better if you have Mortarion. If he's close to enemy line surviving, let's say he has lost, let's say, 10 wounds, and then you can reroll 10 d6s and he regains 3-4 wounds, and you also deal mortal wounds. Could be quite interesting. Probably the enemy has committed a lot of stuff to degrade them, but then but it's a bit situational. Again, you have to be close and so on at the beginning of our own command phase. The Plague Surge, a bit expensive also, 2 command points. In the own command phase, we can use this, and all our army gets +3 inch contagion range until our next command phase. This is a bit expensive. I think from when I play, typically after turn 3, most of the enemy stuff is in +3, is inside contagion range. I'm not sure how useful it is, but it could be useful in the beginning, maybe if you really need to spread the contagion. But yeah, 2 command point, you really have to consider it. And then Putrid Detonation for 1 command point. In any phase when our vehicle or a model with this rule is destroyed, then we can auto-explode it without rolling for the Deadly Demise. So this is quite good for, let's say, something Mephitic Blight Holders, Furtive Bloatrons that are popping up, and you do the auto explosion, you spread mortal wounds, and you also spread affliction. So these targets get afflicted, that suffer mortal wounds, and then the rest of the army, of course, benefits from the enemy being in contagion or being afflicted. So having looked at the detachment rule, the enhancements and the stratagems, let's think about some combos and some list building ideas. I think, as I said, the detachment rule is good by itself, but it doesn't have a huge synergy with the rest of the detachment rules with the sticky objectives. It's just another rule on top, let's say. The enhancements are strong for our melee damage dealers and can increase durability, especially for something like the Daemon Prince or Lord of Contagion. So something around those units. There are two very strong stratagems, the Disgusting Resilience and the Ferric Blight. For me are the standouts. The Disgusting Resilience, as I said, costing 2 command points and can be used 2 times in the enemy's turn in both shoot phase and fight phase. It already calls more for the Daemon Prince, which can reduce command point cost by 1. And this is a strong buff for the infantry durability. I'll show you some math of the Disgusting Resilience in a bit. So that's something that you would like to use. And the Ferric Blight can transform the damage of the shooting Plague Marines. I'll show you some data here. And for the Blight Lords, if you have, for example, a big blob of Plague Marines, Plaguecaster, Biologist Purifier, and the exposed Plague Marines, as I said, coming out of a Rhino or something like this, could be living longer with a Disgusting Resilience. So maybe because these 2 stratagems are so good, maybe we also need a talisman to generate more command point. But otherwise, the detachment is an all-rounder. We can take basically the good units we want to take. It's not like it's pushing us in a certain direction to only pick vehicles or only poxwalkers or something like this. So you can think of all our good combos and all our good data sheets, like Deep Striking, Death Shrouds with Lord of Contagion, Lord of Violence and Blight Lords for the Blight Bombardment, Blowtrons with the launcher, cheap and very, very good, Predators, Plague Marines in Rhinos, infiltrating Poxwalkers, etc. So basically we could also add Mortarion there and hope for the Leech Spore Eruption or something like this, but this detachment is for, as I said, doesn't cut you off from certain parts of the data sheets, and it allows us to build quite diverse lists. So looking at some of the math for some of these enhancements and combos and stratagems. So first, if we start up with the enhancements, here I have the Lord of Contagion and the Daemon Prince. And for example, for Lord of Contagion here, we are looking at his point corrected damage output. If he's a leader, he has sustained hits and lance when he charges, then he can do quite a lot of damage, especially when he's leading Death Shroud, a blob of Death Shroud, and Lord of Contagion can really do a lot of hurt. And here we can see if we add the Weapon of Nurgle, critical hits for himself on a 5+, it increases the damage quite a lot, even if you pay 10 more points. This is point corrected. It's 12% more damage. If you put the Plague Furnace, you get even a bit more damage, 17% more damage increase here. So, but if we look at the Daemon Prince of Nurgle here, he's not as good per point as the Lord of Contagion when he's leading a unit at least. Here, if we add the Weapon of Nurgle, the damage increase for him is not very strong. So the damage increase proportionally is better for the Lord of Contagion with the Weapon of Nurgle, because he already has the sustained hits and the lethal hits. The Furnace of Plagues is better comparatively on the Daemon Prince, 25% more damage output, getting +1 strength, +1 attack, and the devastating wounds. Interestingly, for the Daemon Prince of Nurgle, if we add the Revolting Resilience, it's 20 points. We can see his durability index here. It really increases to very high numbers. It's around 35% more damage, point corrected. So even if we pay the cost of the 20 points, and he becomes basically a small pocket-sized mini Mortarion, also in the Resilience detachment. And here we can see the Daemon Prince of Nurgle with wings basically has the same damage output. He can also, of course, be buffed on the durability point. So based on all this, I would say Revolting Resilience is quite good. the Weapon of Nurgle and Lord of Contagion is good, and the Plague Furnace could go on Daemon Prince, or it could also, of course, go if you have the points on another Lord of Contagion. And then if we look at the Ferric Blight stratagem, what is the effect, let's say, on a big Plague Marine squad with Biologus Purifier and Plague Caster? We are getting here 40 to 70% more damage versus a variety of targets. So here, for example, I have a shooty squad with 10 Plague Marines. There are 3 plasmas. The champion has the plasma gun, 2 Blight launchers, 5 bolt guns. And then if we have the enemy in contagion -1 save, this is the damage output we will be doing. So very good against the, let's say, infantry. But if we add the Ferric Blight, we are increasing also versus vehicles and heavy targets. So you can see here the difference. If you have the Ferric Blight versus Terminators, you will be doing 11 wounds. Now you do 17 wounds. So instead of killing, let's say, 3, you kill 5, maybe 6 if you are a bit more lucky than the average dice. So 60% more damage versus Terminators, a lot more damage versus vehicles and something like this. And if we have the squad, I also, if you watched my latest video with the Rhino Plague Marine combo, where we have the mixed squad of the 2 Blight launchers, the 2 Meltas, 1 plasma from the champion, and 1 Spewer, and the 4 heavy plague weapons. This is the shooting damage. And here you can see, for example, instead of only 10 wounds against the Land Raider, we can do with a Ferric Blight, we can do 16 wounds, like in my video. So very strong damage output of the Ferric Blight. And then looking at the Disgusting Resilience, the -1 damage to the incoming damage. So this is a small chart here where you see the weapon characteristic damage, let's say from 1 to 6 flat damage, and then let's say a d6 damage. If we have a 2 wound model, like our Plague Marines, if the enemy has a weapon with a damage 1, the Disgusting Resilience doesn't have any effect. If the enemy has weapons with damage 2 versus a 2 wound model, you will be getting twice the durability, let's say double the durability, because you are transforming it to 1. So it takes 2 hits to kill one of our models here. But if the weapon is like even higher damage, it doesn't help us to use the Disgusting Resilience for our Plague Marines here. If we have a 3 wound model like our Blight or Terminators, for damage 2, instead of being killed by 2 shots, if you use Disgusting Resilience, it will require 3, so you'll get 50% more durability. If it's a damage 3 weapon, you get twice the durability. Instead of 1 shot killing it, you would require 2 shots to kill a Blight Lord. For 4 wound models like our Death Shroud, we get twice the durability versus damage 2 weapons. Instead of 2 required, the enemy would need to hurt us with 4 shots. For damage 3, it's no difference for our Death Shroud, because basically it would take 2 of those to kill a Death Shroud. Instead, now even with Disgusting Resilience, it will be take 2. But if the enemy has a flat 4 damage weapon, of course, instead of 1 shot, we will be needing to take 2. And for d6, let's say something like d6 damage, you get 14% more durability, or 22% more durability for Blight Lords, and 27 more durability for Death Shroud. And this is the durability index versus a variety of weapons, a lot of combinations here, and that I'm typically simulated, point corrected, and we see the increase versus all the weapons is like 10-20% for Plague Marines. For Death Shroud is 8 to 30, and for Death Shroud is 13 to 38. So especially if your enemy has 2 wound weapons, 2 damage weapons, Disgusting Resilience can really make a difference. Moving on now to some example lists with a Virulent Vectorium. So this is, let's say, one of the first lists I try to theory craft here. So for example, in this one we have a Daemon Prince without the wings. We give him the Revolting Regeneration. He will be sticking close to infantry to give them more command points, and then for the command points, but then he will probably get into action at some point, and he can be more protected. We can have a squad of Lord of Violence with the Blight Lords to do the Blight Bombardment for other units, 2 units of Death Shroud, 3 man with Lord of Contagion in each. Here I didn't have room for the weapon of Nurgle. And then let's say a big squad of Plague Marines with Biologus Purifier and Malignant Plaguecaster for the Ferric Blight. Maybe another long-range shooting squad. 3 Furtive Blow Drones with launcher and 3 Poxwalkers that you can infiltrate and hold some back objectives and things like that. So a bit all-rounder and trying to maximize on some of our good combos and units otherwise, and having the Daemon Prince to reduce the command point cost. An example is here I've added some predators. I've also added, let's say, apart from a Daemon Prince with Revolting Generation, I've also added a Daemon Prince with wings and the Furnace of Plagues. Still the 2 units of Death Shroud, still the Lord of Irelands with Blight Lords. I've taken out the Plague Marines here. We still have let's say Poxwalkers, but we have a bit more vehicles here. You could also think about adding some Mephitic Blight Holders instead of the Distractors here, or yeah, whatever other vehicle you would like to choose. And finally, an example list number 3. So here we have the Daemon Prince here again, Lord of Irelands with 5 Blight Lords. Here we have Hero tried the Lord of Poxes with Arch Contaminator, with a shooty squad of Plague Marines with 2 Blight Launchers, 3 Plasma, and the Bolt Guns. They will try to get to an objective and stay there, and they cannot be targeted outside 18 inches, and they can, when they are shooting out from there, they can reroll all to wound. We could think if you have a Plague Surgeon, it could be an interesting combo, because then if you could supercharge your Plasmas, then the Surgeon could bring them back. A Lord of Contagion and the Death Shroud, here we give him the weapon of Nurgle. Then we have another big squad of Plague Marines in a Rhino with Biologus Purifier and Malignant Plaguecaster with a mixed squad. 3 Furtive Blow Drones with a launcher, 2 Mephitic Blight Holders, and 2 units of Poxwalkers. But the variations for the Virulent Vectorium are a bit endless. You can mix and match how you want, and there will be stratagems and enhancements and combos for all of them. So reaching to the summary and final thoughts about the Virulent Vectorium, I think it's a solid choice for Death Guard. The army rule is useful with sticky objectives, although maybe not the most fun, or let's say, yeah, there are some of the other detachments are maybe less strong, but a bit more thematic and fun. But the enhancements are really good for melee characters like the Daemon Prince or Lord of Contagion. We have 2 very good stratagems that benefit the shooting of our infantry, and we also can improve the resilience quite a lot, and some of the other detachments are lacking this defensive aspect of discussing resilience, and maybe that's why the Virulent Vectorium is especially strong. And bringing the Daemon Prince to reduce command point cost to use these stratagems quite a lot, maybe some Taliban could really be a strong combo. And as I said, for lists we can make many variations of lists. It's an all-rounder. It's not like, for example, for Death Lord's Chosen, if you don't have any more Terminators, you can't use the stratagems. Or yeah, so it's quite all-rounder for stratagems for different things, and you can build a lot of variations. You can bring more Tyrant there. You can do whatever you want. So what do you think about this review? What do you think about this detachment? Have you been trying it? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, please press like and subscribe to my channel, helping it grow. We are closing slowly to the 10,000 subscribers mark, and if you want to support my efforts to bring you these videos and doing a lot of mathhammer and analysis, you can consider becoming a YouTube member, GeneralJannis supporter. So with these words, GeneralJannis signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.